Nice to meet everyone online virtually. Notwithstanding, I hope all of you are keeping well. And since I come from Sport Singapore, I want to just encourage everybody to continue to stay active. As you know, exercise is a very important part of keeping healthy, strong mind, strong body, and all the good stuff, right? Okay, so a little bit about myself before we jump into the breakout session, the session itself. Um, so my background is that I work in Sports Singapore, and Sports Singapore, for the participants here, is a government agency responsible for sports activity in Singapore, right? So we organize events, we develop policies, and we engage the community, trying to encourage everyone to lead a healthy lifestyle. Obviously, it's not just about health, but also about quality of life, right? So really get the best out of life, especially in this current situation. Very challenging in Singapore. I was just speaking earlier. In Singapore, we are uh, now seeing another little bit of community cases, and the schools have gone back to studying from home, and likewise the officers are now working from home. And having said that, it's good that we have technology, right? Technology that allow us to continue to communicate, continue to share ideas, and to learn. So learning doesn't stop. Okay, in fact, we should learn a lot from this episode of COVID. Okay, so with that as a starting point, so this morning I would like to share with you an interesting project that Sports Singapore has embarked on about recycling shoes and what we want to use the recycling shoes for. And I hope that it is an idea that need not be done by a government agency, right? But I want to share this idea because you can be doing something like that back in your home country. Okay, so it's not just for adults, really. I think students can take and make the first move. Okay, so if let's not waste time. The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to spend only about 15 minutes to talk through the idea of the project and to help you understand some of the lessons that we have learned. And I would like to break you up into smaller groups to have about another 10, 15 minutes where you can discuss and share your initial thoughts. And we all come back again and let's have a few group sharings. I want to hear from you what you think you can do, whether as a working adult or as a student or as a teacher in this regard of sustainability as it relates to leadership in school. Okay, all right. Um, can I have a sense of whether you can see my slides? Are you able to see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Dr.
Uh,
Chang.
okay, great, great, great. Okay, so this idea of shoe waste recycling actually was mooted sometime in 2018. And it started off because there was then a group of athletes uh, who say that, look, we are wearing our shoes out quite quickly. Is there something that we can do with these worn out shoes? And on the other hand, there was also a conversation with the industry to say that, look, how do we work with sports Singapore on a sustainability project? So for one reason or another, these two ideas start to come together, and there you go. We have this shoe wastage recycling project. That's how it started. Okay, next slide, please. Very quickly, I will cover how this project has performed so far and where we are at now, and some of the important points for all of you to take note in the event that you want to do something like that. Okay. Okay. Next slide. Okay. A bit about the problem. Okay, and it's a bit technical in some sense. So we know all of us wear shoes and we throw away shoes, and then you realize that there will always be, some shoes are still quite good, but yet, we ran out of fashion, we throw away, or really we have also thrown away shoes that are very worn out already. Whatever the case may be, all these shoes are going to be sent to the incinerator and they're going to be burned into ashes, and then they form part of the landfill material. So in Singapore, we actually have so much waste that we make an island out of that. Can you imagine that? Okay. The second thing about this thing is that if you are running in your jogging tracks in your or playground in your hometown, you will start to realize that they are made of very strong rubber material. And this rubber material, SBR, is the same material that we use for our tires. Okay, and it is very strong. Obviously, as you know, you can't have soft tires for your tires, right? And you'll run into issues. So these materials are using those SBR granule as what we call it. But it has certain issues, right? Issues like there's certain uncertainty about whether are this material really safe. It's okay if you use it on the tire of a car, but if you start to use it on a jogging track and people fall, on the jogging track, is it safe? The material as it interact with open wounds. If you burn the material, is it safe? Is it producing toxic gas? So these are questions that are still left unanswered. Right? And the third thing is that a lot of technology today uses a solvent-based adhesive technology. What it means is that they use some kind of glue to glue all this rubbery material together to fabricate and make the surfaces for sports or playground. Okay, so that's normally the case today. Okay, however, the glue that is being used today in the industry actually comprises of different type of material additive, heavy metal in it. Okay, as a result, there is a potential that they can discharge what we call as volatile organic compound. Okay, if it is subject to a certain temperature, and this may potentially be harmful to the environment as well as to people. Okay, so for all these reasons, the number of shoes that we throw away every year and the material that is currently being used, we think that there is a way to rethink about this whole idea, and that is to use recycled rubber granules from discarded sport shoes. Okay, just to be clear, you know, not all soles of the shoes can be used. Is those have to be the one that can be used must be rubber based, because some of your shoes are actually not rubber based because it has certain material inside, so those will not be able to be used. Okay, but there are still a lot of shoes made up of rubber based sole, and that can be used. Okay, and then instead of using a solvent based adhesive glue, uh, using a water-based acrylic binder is a safer, more safer option actually. Okay, and then we put this together. We work with this partner company called Dow Chemicals, and completed a trial in early 2020, and to prove that it's actually workable. It's actually workable. Okay, the material that we finally put, we make a jogging track in one of our football fields, and to find that the stability of the surface, the durability, they are all comparable to international standards. Okay, and that then led on one thing to another, and now we are really looking at nationwide shoe waste collection points. Okay, okay, next please. Guess what? It starts with school. All right, the first campaign we did starts from school. And our thinking is very simple because students, you wear a lot of shoes, okay, and you grow out of it very quickly. I'm sure you change shoes every year, or some even 6 months, once every 6 months. But the point is that it starts from schools, and we collected about 21,000 pairs of used shoes, okay, and then engaging the students as part of their learning journey. So in this slide, if you look at the backgrounds, the one on the bottom right, this is how the material looks like after it has gone through the process of grinding and being glued together. Okay. Next, please. So with the successful pilot, then we started our second campaign sometime in late last year. Okay, by setting up 65 collection point in different locations in our sports centers, in our schools, uh, high schools, colleges, universities, and also in certain retail stores like Decathlon. I suppose you have Decathlon in Philippines as well. Adidas, sports retailers. Okay, to help to promote, because these are very natural points that we think people can associate with shoes collection, right? And we collected about 75,000 pairs and about 20 megatons. That is equivalent to about 3.3 kilometers of running track. Okay, so with this amount of shoes, we can make 3.3 kilometers of running track. So, one running track is 400 meters, right? Typically. Okay, so it just gives you a sense of how many we can build because of that. Okay, and then the media took interest, and there was certain publicity around it, which is important to help us get the message out to the rest of people living in Singapore. And the thing is that we want people to start to look at shoes differently, as the diagram on the left suggests. Right now, I want you to look at shoes, and when you look at the sole of the shoes, you're not looking at a black color rubbery stuff. Okay, instead you look at the sole of the shoe today and see a jogging track, okay, a playground surface there. Okay, so this is what we hope that everyone can see in time to come. Okay, that worn out shoes still have a useful life, in the sense of being recycled and reused in fitness corners, jogging tracks, etc. And yes, the project was well received, and actually we got into the finals of the Singapore International Chamber of Commerce, uh, Best Green Collaboration Award. Okay. So what can this rubber be used for? It can be used as a base layer. That means your jogging track, right? The layer below it, it can be used for that. It can also be used for top layer, okay, as a protection sort of padding for whatever you can think of, right? Okay, next. Okay, so if you're interested in something like this is the process that we have gone through, and I will just sort of highlight the key point that you need to take note of. Okay, so obviously you need to collect shoes, right? And then somebody needs to donate the shoes. Okay, so collection point is important. Think about collection point. Think about where should you be placing the collection point that will allow you to collect the most pair of shoes, and it has to be convenient to people to bring those shoes as well, right? If you put a collection point in a restaurant, I don't think you're going to get that, especially when you put in a five-star restaurant, right? You're not going to get people putting shoes there. Okay, and then transporting these shoes to a grinder. A grinder is a company that has a machine to be able to grind the sole of the shoes into granule, as you see in the diagram here. Okay, so you got to look for this company that has a grinder that can do that. In Singapore case, BT Sport is this company that we work with. Okay, and then after grinding, there must be another company that can pull all this together and stitch it up, right? With a solvent, a water-based solvent technologies that can do that. So these are the two important companies that you must look for. Company that has a grinder and a company that is able to pull this together. And the type of company that can glue this together are usually chemical companies. Okay, chemical companies. And obviously, finally, the last part of the process is the user, right? And who are these users? You can think of government authorities that is responsible to build sport jogging tracks. You can look at your parks authority, because parks authority also build sort of surface track playground. You can look at schools or Ministry of Education, because Ministry of Education do build certain infrastructures for sports and physical activities. So these are the owners that you can approach. Okay. Okay, next. So I have a few, I mean, just last few slides. Uh, so what is important in this whole process? Okay, you must think about logistics costs. To collect 75,000 pairs of shoes or 180,000 pairs of shoes is not a small thing, right? You need to think about the logistics. How do you place, what what type of boxes should you be putting there, and then how are you collecting them, how frequent you should be collecting them if they are full, because you don't want to have a case whereby the collection point gets overflow with worn out shoes, and then it becomes very unsightly, and obviously the venue owner will not be too happy with that, right? So you got to think about that. We tried with paper boxes, and while it is trying to get a sustainability message out. So we try with huge paper boxes. Well, it's good, but it doesn't quite last. Okay, it's probably once you can use it one time, and then the moment you collect it back, you have to dispose of the boxes, and that incur additional cost to make those boxes, right? Okay, so think about that. And the second thing that is important to think about is that our sense is that people will donate their shoes if the points are conveniently located. Okay, so I mentioned earlier, right? If you're going to put in the restaurant, I don't think so. Shopping centers, it may seem like a good idea, but actually it is not quite a good idea because uh, from the point where you collect the shoes and you have to put it in the vehicle that is collecting it, it is better to have somewhere where the car park is close to the collecting point so that minimize that carrying because it's heavy. Okay, so think about such things, and you have to think about more than one boxes in popular location, especially. So how do you know what is popular and what is not? You got to monitor that. Okay, and the frequency, as I said. Our understanding, our experience is that sports centers and schools are excellent location to place this collection point, something for you to think about. And small truck is good, so don't get those big giant trucks. Why? Because big giant trucks can't go under basement car park. Yeah. Okay. Small truck is agile. They can move. They can they can kind of move everywhere and park at pretty much anywhere, and that can help to facilitate the collection. Okay. Okay. Next. Can I go to the next slide before I come to this? I think I sort of get the order wrong. Yeah. So last slide on this for you to think about is that we have tried different type of collection boxes, and we find that something like the picture we show here seems to work well. It is durable. Have it have a different color to sort of differentiate between other type of collection boxes to sort of get the attention. And it has a wheel that you can sort of pull along and then put it in the vehicle. Okay, so this seems to work quite well for us. And as a next step, it's important to take note when I talked about cost earlier, right? So how do you know how much is enough and how much is, if you can work towards less than $1 per every kilogram of shoes that you collect, or every kilogram of shoes granule that you produce. I think it will be doable already. Okay, so this is based on our experience, right? So about $1 of per kilogram of shoes granules that you produce, it should cost you less than $1. Okay, and our next step in Singapore, we are planning to collect about 180,000 pairs of shoes. So there's lots of shoes, and yeah, so we are looking for our next launch that's happening very soon, and we hope to see more shoes being collected and building more tracks for people in Singapore to enjoy. Okay, so that pretty much summarizes this particular project that we have. Okay, can I have the next slide? So very quickly before you go into your breakout sessions, something for you to think about. My view is that having gone through this project, and thinking about leadership and education, how does all this come together? I think that the important in education will be purpose and vision driven, all right, and not so much scores driven. Okay. Think of what you want to achieve in school, okay, and make the education system work for you. The second thing is think about system early. All right, what do I mean? Understand and approach your education from the point of a system thinking. For example, sometimes I wonder, right, why do we make our students, draw cells, our cell, the cells, and then make them memorize everything about the cell, uh, and at the end they do know how to draw the cell, but they do not know why the cell exists for, what is the reason, right? But if you tell them that, look, how do you approach it from the point of health and wellness? Students will start to look at the cell in different ways. They'll start to ask, how does a cell support health and wellness? Right? What must a cell do to be able to achieve good health? Right. So there's very different way of thinking. That's called system thinking. And collaboration is important. This particular project, we have to work with different partners and everyone bringing different skills. And because they come from different background, the leader of the project, if you want to be such a leader, you have to be able to try to understand what these experts or these people from different background in your team is trying to tell you, because they are seeing different perspective, and you got to get used to that, because some of the perspective will not quite be something that you're comfortable with or used to. So having that ability to understand different perspective is something not all of us are born with. Is something I feel that we have to get used to, and something that we have to learn through the years. Okay, and finally, um, I would say that the education for us, we should think about the impact we want to create with the education system that we have, right? It's not just how much work we want to do, but really why are we even doing this? What is the impact and outcome that we want? So are all these things about vision-driven system thinking, emphasizing collaboration, multidisciplinary, and impact-centric part of your education today? Do you feel that that is the case? If it is not, I would like to hear why it's not. If it is, I want to know. I mean, it's good to share with us which aspect you think is important and we should continue to emphasize.